Would you say your church is growing, declining, or stagnant? Now, seriously, it's a valid question. Sobering, but a valid question. You know, most organizations, unfortunately, don't have a measurable system for defining what success looks like. So, in effect, we keep doing the same things we've been doing, expecting different results, all while wondering why our church or our organization isn't growing. Today, we're going to talk about how to measure ministry success by asking this question: how are we winning? Let's do this.
In our own experience as pastors leading a healthy and growing church in rural America, we've learned that the church has the greatest momentum when all of our teams and all of our volunteers and ministries have synergy and we're all firing on all cylinders. When any organization has systems in place that are unclear, it can cause a breakdown. It can paralyze an entire ministry, actually. And we've seen it, unfortunately. Maybe you have too. Maybe you're experiencing that. So instead of replacing old systems that have proven they just don't work, right? What do we do? So the question today is, how do we move our church from being the stale and stagnant to becoming what we see in our hearts and that vision that we had when we dared to dream the first time?
So we all have a favorite sports team, right?
Sure.
Okay, so growing up in Kansas City, I always love watching the Chiefs or the Royals. Misti grew up a Cardinals fan.
That's right.
Yes, we've always been a house divided, but
Yes.
when we're at each other's throats about the Royals versus the Cards,
I just burned his jersey.
I've never been allowed to own a Royals jersey for longer than a week without her burning it. I always drop in the Remember 1985 bomb. And
How long ago
usually,
was 1985?
It doesn't matter.
A long
They
time
won
ago.
the I-70 World Series. I was there. Not at the game, but I saw it on TV. That
You were alive.
tells how old I am. But enough about us. What's your favorite sports team? Just tell us in the comments below. But think for just a second about sports. In any game, we're afforded the clarifying privilege of having a scoreboard, right?
Yep.
This is how we know who's
Winning. That's
all
right.
So, well, in the church or in the business world, we really don't have that same luxury. In fact, the word winning itself is really a relative term when it comes to ministry and or business.
Yep.
So if you're a pastor or a staff member, or maybe you're a volunteer, team lead in your local church, it's really crucial that you clarify what it means for your team or your organization to win.
Yes.
Otherwise, it can be really murky.
Yep.
And make it really difficult to know if you're getting closer or further away from becoming what God truly intended your ministry to be. So here's the reality.
That's good.
Everyone wants to be a part of a winning team.
That's right.
And the opposite
Is also
is
true.
also true. People tend to really start dropping like flies
Yep.
when the team or the organization isn't winning. Maybe you've seen this in
Yep.
your own circle of reality.
Yeah.
You see, everyone has an idea in their mind of what it should look like for your church to win, right? So if you don't define what the win looks like, your people will determine themselves
What that
whether
is.
you are winning or not.
Yep.
And furthermore, if they want to be a part of it. So this is why it's crucial that we define what is important at every level
Yes.
of the organization.
Okay, so what does clarifying the win really mean? Simply put, it means communicating what is really important and what really matters most, okay? When you clarify the win, you help all hands on deck stay on the same page. When you don't possess a shared focus, misalignment is often the result, and frustration, I would say. And you don't want that to happen. And if as a leader, you allow this to go unchecked, it honestly can completely wreck and bring havoc within the organization. So you always want to remember this. Effective leaders will regularly remind their team what a healthy church actually looks like.
So very true. So at Mountain Movers, where we currently pastor, we have two types of wins that we continually recognize and celebrate within the culture of our teams. So a team win describes what it looks like when the particular team is winning at doing what that team does. All right. In the same respect, a positional win describes what it looks like when a member of the organization is winning at doing what they do in their particular position. So let's talk about some examples for just a second.
Let's break it down.
An example of a written team win for one of the teams at Mountain Movers would be worship. We're heavily involved in the worship at our church, so this one just automatically comes to my mind oftentimes as we teach this. So here's our win for the worship team. When the people are engaged and the feedback is good. All right. So how does this picture constitute a win? Well, if you knew our mission statement, which is to lead people into the presence of God and prepare their hearts for the Word of God, that's the worship team's mission statement. And you couple that with our number one core value at Mountain Movers Church, which is God's presence is our priority. More important than anything else. We have to have God's presence. If He's not in it, we're out. All right. So we win when we see that the fruit of our labor, all right, is being effectively executed in our mission, our values. It's all being executed simultaneously. So on a regular basis, we look for physical signs of people engaged in worship. There maybe we see tears streaming down their face. Maybe we see them step out of their seat and come down to the altars. They're joining us in singing. They're raising their hands, maybe clapping. You know, it might look different at whatever church you worship at, but these are things that we look for. Maybe even jumping up and down. You know, if there's a more of an upbeat song that's happening. A win helps us to identify if there's evidence that we're accomplishing our mission, our strategy, and our values. So that's just an example of a team win when it comes to the worship team.
Well, let's take it a bit farther. We want everyone on that team to have that win memorized
in their heart,
so that they themselves, when they step up on the platform, for instance, for the worship team, they realize that we don't win today. Although we want excellence in everything for God's glory, perfection is not the win.
Correct.
Right? So playing every note perfectly and being on perfect pitch and having this, this perfect look about us, that's not how we win. So every person on that stage knows that when the crowd begins to engage in God's presence and you can experience God's presence and you feel Him and people, you see those visible signs. They know in their heart in that moment, even if they heard a sour note, or even
and
if
it happens. Let's get really real. Okay? It happens.
It's really important that your team understands what's the most important thing, and that's the written win. So then as a team, when it's all over, you go, hey, let's look at the scoreboard, right? And although we don't have a digital board telling us 10 to 12, we talk about, guys, how did we win today? Did we win? And they start talking about, it was beautiful when all those people came to the altar and they started praying over one another.
And gathered around so-and-so. They were down on the altars and they were crying.
And that tells us as leaders, our team members understand what's most important. And we celebrate that, right?
That's right.
Because we want to see it repeated the next week.
And on the flip side, if we were a Grammy Award-winning worship band, we're cranking out some awesome music. But there's no physical evidence that people are being touched by the presence of God.
But it's perfect.
And it's perfect and it's great. And the
that
notes
would not
are wonderful
be
and the
success
harmony
for us.
is phenomenal. It's all just wonderful. That's not success for us. Because
exactly.
our mission is tied back to people being led into the presence of God.
Yes.
Their hearts being opened up for His Word.
Right. All right, let me give you another example. So at Mountain Movers, we have a parking team. Everybody loves going somewhere and the atmosphere just feels exciting, okay? Yeah. Sometimes that can be produced with music, sometimes that's with people. Well, we didn't have a lot of money, okay? We could not afford to put speakers outside and be having jamming music, which is fun. What we decided to do is we were going to put people outside with big old smiles on their face and waving at traffic going by. And as they pulled in, and we bought some signs that were fairly cheap, $15, $20, had them printed. They looked awesome and very colorful. And so we started developing this team written win for the parking team. And it was simply this: when the flow is smooth, and there's excitement in the air, okay? So then we didn't necessarily need them to park cars. As God started bringing the people, very soon we truly needed that team to park the cars. And we really needed the flow to be smooth. And guess what? They had that in their heart. They understood, when I get out there, I need to be smiling because I'm creating the excitement. And it's not exciting to see people like this. Welcome to church. I mean, it's like, hey, honestly, that team is so like over the top,
jacked.
Right? We have people driving by who are like about run off the road because that team is so exciting. Yeah. But they understand their written win, okay? So then let's move on to the second type of win, okay? So we have a team win, and then we have a positional win. So a positional win is similar to a team win, but this focuses on the individual's position. All right, so you mentioned sports teams a while ago, right? So I want you to think about whatever sport you love the most. Baseball, basketball, football, whatever it is, soccer. When I played basketball or when I played volleyball, there are different positions on that team.
Yeah, good
correct?
way to look at it, yeah.
All right, so I was never a center in basketball because I'm 5'3" on my tallest day of my life, right?
Salty. The 5'3".
Right. So the center's position is different than the forward's position. It's different than the point guard's position. So the same thing goes in the church world or in the business world. We have an individual written win for a position.
So when you step out on that court, you know exactly
what my job is.
What your job is.
What is my job?
What does it look like
so that I can help
do your job well?
Yep. So that I can help the whole team win, right? Okay. So when you think about it in the church realm, let me just give you an example of a positional win here at Mountain Movers. So in our kids ministry and in our student ministry, we have what's called connectors. Mm-hmm. It's fairly simple, right? A connector does what?
Connect.
They connect, okay? So their written win is honestly simply this. When a child is excited to see me, all right, because think about it. If my job as a connector is to connect with students, it's to build relationships. It would mean I need to be exciting. I need to smile when they come in like, hey, Brad, what's up? That's, and you got those boring kids who are like, you got to work really hard. Because they're like walking in, or maybe they've had a bad day. As a connector, I realize I win if a kid or a student, a teenager, is excited to see me.
And why is that? Because it points again to
that
your
relationship,
mission and your values and the strategy behind what you're doing.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, we want this child to open up, to engage, and to grow in their relationship with God. That's not going to happen if they don't have a deep and meaningful relationship with this connector.
Exactly.
So we've told you what a win is. Let's look at what it is not.
Yeah.
A win is not the same as your mission.
Right.
But wins are strategic in helping us to accomplish our mission. A win is not the same as your values, but wins push you to apply your core values. Mm-hmm. A win is not the cure-all to leading a healthy team or an organization, but you will find that celebrating the wins regularly will become some of the most critical practices you can possibly employ as a leader.
So now what we want to do is we want to look at 4 steps to help you implement the written win for your organization. So step number 1 is this: make the win simple and memorable. So important. When you formally state the win and put it in front of an entire team, it becomes the lens, okay, through which you can view everything you do. So learn to ask the question as you're writing it. What do we want volunteers to do exactly? Make it simple.
That's right. Step number 2, keep the win specific.
Yes.
When you clarify the win, it's like marking a destination on a map. It's easy to know when you win because you arrived at the exact location you originally intended. If I type in barbecue restaurant in Branson, I better end up at a barbecue restaurant in Branson. Maybe you've heard the phrase, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Right.
Well, keeping your wins specific will help you to measure your ministry success against your mission, your strategy, and your values.
Definitely. All right, step number 3. Reiterate the win frequently and creatively. Good leaders develop the habit of reminding everyone and each other what's really, really important.
It's true.
So at Mountain Movers, we implement our wins in almost every team huddle. Team huddles happen before every service. Okay, we even do post huddles. So whether it's a Sunday morning or whether it's a midweek night, we are going to talk to our team about those positional wins and those team wins constantly. They're not going to remember if we don't keep it right in front of them.
Week in and week out.
That's right.
All right, step number 4, we celebrate what we want to see repeated.
Yes.
Let me say that again. Celebrate what you want to see repeated. When a person or a team executes their given win, we make a big deal about it.
Yes.
We celebrate, we clap, we high five, boom, okay? We give out the attaboys. You know, this is not only about building great team culture, but it's also about solidifying what we want to see happen on a weekly basis.
So I want to just encourage you. Maybe you have never put wins into place. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it and you want to do this in your organization. Start small, all right? But start thinking about what is most important and then clarifying that. Go through those 4 steps. But I'm telling you, when you begin to do this, volunteers are excited to come and serve in the house of God. I love it when they show up, smiles on their face, because guys, they want to be a part of a winning team. They continue to show up, celebrating and repeating it over and over and over. And that is truly how we measure success in ministry, because we define those written wins and we celebrate it when we see it happen.